Well, Josh, welcome. Welcome to your home away from home here at the Alumni Center. Always good to see the great Josh Abbott back on campus. And what's it feel like coming back home again?
Well, today feels a little busy, a little scheduled, just because here with the Panhandlers on tour. So, this morning had some things to do and then went to lunch with some fellow Red Raiders and some of the band and crew. And then we just got done doing sound check. So I'm here doing this interview with you, and then I'll go right back out there and get ready for the show tonight. So
fantastic. Well, I appreciate you squeezing it in.
Typical
we got
day
this
isn't
book
quite this busy.
Yeah, some time ago, and just wanted to continue with it. And I think I told you this before when we first met at the basketball tournament in Maui, but I said, anybody with a double T in their name is good in my book.
I love that.
So,
and there's a reason if you go look at our Instagram, our Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and even my personal Instagram, if you'll go look at the way I spell Josh Abbott,
right,
there's a double T on there, even for the band account.
How about that?
And so I just...
Are you related to the governor?
We like to joke around and say we are. Who knows? I mean, we probably are at some point down the line, but to our knowledge, we're not. But we call each other cousin. I called him uncle at first, and then I think he didn't like the age insinuation there, so he went with cousin. So I just rock with cousin now. I
sent him a letter once, and in the PS, I said, "Don't ever forget you have a double T in your name." And he was here briefly and everything.
That's good. I'm going to tell him that next time I see him too, because we got to get more funding for tech.
Yeah, he's hashtag one of us. That's part of the game, as you know. Well, we're glad you're back on campus, obviously, here at the Alumni Center, and such a historic corner of campus.
Very much.
And we're really working to get more and more alumni comfortable with coming back home. And this is your home away from home. And I imagine it's got to be a good feeling to come back to, I guess, where it all started to a great extent. Where are you from originally? Where's your home?
Well, I'm originally, it's funny, I kind of bounced around as a kid. My dad was a pastor, and so we moved around every year or two, sometimes three if I was lucky. We finally landed in Idalou in 8th grade and stayed there. And so, I kind of went to junior high and high school there, and then in college, it took me a few years to get to tech. I didn't come to tech right after high school. I kind of bounced around trying to figure it out. And once I finally made tech my home, I knew I was in the 100%. Finally, I felt like I was in the right spot, and just stayed here. And throughout the process of getting a degree, realized I had a passion for music and songwriting, and then I wanted to go to grad school, and it was during the grad school process that the band started to catch some steam and really get some momentum out there. And then that's when I realized I probably want to at least try doing music for a living. Still at that time, I didn't think that it was a guarantee. And so went down the road, and now here I am all these years later, and it's worked out.
So you consider yourself a farm boy, country boy?
Yeah.
I mean, is that cloud?
It's funny.
Idalou,
know. Yeah. I mean, Idalou definitely, it's a farm town right outside of Lubbock. And my great-grandparents farmed. My grandparents and my dad did not. I think because my great-grandparents farmed, I think they wanted far away from it. So, I grew up with it in my family, but it wasn't something that we did necessarily every day. I would help some of my friends in the area on their farms. I would help out Will Winter, over at his pig farm outside of Idalou, and some of my buddies I'd help spray in the summers. And I worked at a tractor warehouse one winter to earn money for Christmas presents when I was in high school. So I've definitely just been around it enough.
So you have the authentic backstory for the music.
Yeah, I never want people to think I'm trying to be something I'm not. So, I'm not a farmer myself, but I grew up around it and with a lot of my friends who were that, and I got to understand the hardships of their lifestyle, at least a little bit. And
the work ethic
sure,
of that
the same
culture.
For a lot of other industries. I've never been in oil and gas, but the amount of friends I have in that business really allows me to obtain some knowledge about how that business works, and then every now and then put the pen to paper with it and write songs for the Panhandlers, because we write a lot about that as well.
So much of the inspirations from Tell me, is it true about Idalou? Those two ladies, Ida and Lou?
It is true.
Really? Tell me a little bit about that. I don't know how much of that is lore.
You pretty much summed it up.
Right.
I don't know that that's going to be a big part of this story, but yeah, I think the people that settled there had two daughters, Ida and Lou. And that's how we got our name.
There we go. That's great. That's good to know.
I mean, it definitely stands out compared to a lot of the other names you see around here, right? Littlefield, Brownfield, Shallow Water.
Well, I'm not sure about Mule and Shoe being two people, but that's
Sundown.
It's
like
Sundown,
everything
right?
was very like named after something specific. And then there's Idaloo. Yeah.
So your studies here at Tech, when you came to Tech, you said you kind of bounced around a little bit trying to find out what area of academics, what did you start studying and even in grad school?
When I came to Tech, I was pretty focused on doing political science. And I just have always had an affinity for politics, even going back to high school. I just kind of somewhat loved them. Always thought I would be in politics, to be honest, even throughout college. To be honest, even through part of my grad school process, I really thought it was a real potential for me to land in the political field. I didn't know if that would end up being as a lobbyist or as a campaign director or a communications consultant or something like that. I was majoring in political science, minoring in communication studies, and then I flipped those because I think I enjoyed the communication studies aspects better. The classroom environments, they were definitely more fun. They weren't quite as stale, and there were a lot of pretty girls, a lot of sorority girls in those classes. I mean, just being honest with you, when you're a college kid, you're starting to think like, which one of these classes do I want more of? But I really loved political science as well.
Where are the best ratios? Where are the best ratios? The guy to girl ratio.
I needed all the help I could get at the time.
Political campaigns that appealed to you?
Yeah, it did actually. Right after I graduated from Texas Tech, I worked on a political campaign as the communications director, and I was definitely in shoes that were too big for me, but it was a guy that ran for a state office here locally named Van Wilson. He ran against Delwyn Jones.
Okay.
And that was a really tough campaign because Delwyn was such a long-time beloved character, that represented West Texas. And so we ran against him, and it was really just getting experience for me. And I realized when doing that job that I didn't want to be on that side of it. If I want to be in politics, I realized I really wanted to be the politician. And maybe that's just the narcissism seeking, like getting out of me. And maybe that was the, hey, dude, you probably just want to be a lead singer. But I don't know. I felt like if I was going to be in politics, I just want to be the guy that can actually influence policy and make changes and not be the guy working for that guy.
You probably, I guess, you're a people person anyway, too. So you're probably like engaging with the people, and that's part of the appeal.
We did a lot of that. That was in the mid 2000s, early 2000s. So that campaign was probably in 2005, 6, somewhere in there, 4, if I remember right. So we definitely, we didn't have Instagram. Facebook was only for college kids. We were door to door.
MySpace, I guess MySpace.
Sure, but you weren't going to get a lot of the older voters in that. So
that wasn't the
we were door to door. We were driving T-posts and putting up signs anywhere we could, and visiting with people and helping drive him to various, some of the small towns around Lubbock, reaching out and talking to people. And just in that process, I realized that I loved politics, but I don't think I liked being the bottom of the barrel guy doing it. And so I decided to go back to grad school because I was like, I want to get my graduate degree and get my master's. And I think that'll help leverage me a little bit more in employment and getting hired somewhere. And so during that process, I really started looking at a couple different options. Politics was one of them. And then oil and gas was another. And was kind of working on my thesis for that. And a couple years in, and then that's really when the band took off. My first song, our song got played on the radio, not only here locally, but other places started playing it. And everywhere we would go in town, it was kind of like this like weird feeling I'd never gotten before, like this like celebrity type feeling. And in hindsight, it's kind of silly, but at the time you're like, wow, everywhere I go, people want to take pictures with me and they tell me how much they like my music. And it just made me think like, maybe I should just keep writing songs and pursuing music. And so sure enough, my last semester of grad school, I decided, I think I want to pursue music. And so I signed with a booking agent out of Austin. He became my first manager, and we set off down the road really not knowing what we were doing at all.
Wow. So before you got into the music scene, I guess you could tell that was appealing to people and fulfilling to you. But before that, maybe even before the grad school, because you said you started kind of the blue light thing was during grad school and all of that. But any particular teachers that
influenced me here?
And,
for
from
sure.
your time?
There were various professors, but the one that definitely influenced me the most, and I still remain very good friends with and close to her, and seek her opinion on issues at times. Dr. Catherine Langford in the Communication Studies departments. I call her Katie, but I think she prefers to go by Catherine. I don't know. But
no, that's good. We've gotten acquainted and we're not related, but I know her.
Yeah,
she's wonderful.
But Katie is awesome, and she's so intelligent. One of the most intelligent people that I've ever met in my life. Really understands the judicial process and politics, specifically in areas of like rhetoric and interpretation and language. And so I was really just, she really mentored me and helped me a lot through, especially the grad school process.
Katie's great. She and I sat side by side we were on the Centennial Committee together. She made some wonderful contributions to the Centennial, and that's when I really got acquainted with her.
She's
so
fantastic.
I can understand.
Give her some hell every now and then for going to A&M and Penn State, but she's just, her college path led her where it did, but it led her to employment here and tenure here, and she's, she's an important Red Raider for that building.
She loves it. She loves it here, no doubt.
Yeah,
and everything.
So I really respect her a lot.
What about some of your memories here at Tech? What are some of the things that stand out?
Oh man,
some of the things that you can share.
It's funny, some of the things you take for granted. Like I can close my eyes and picture between classes in certain buildings when everyone would kind of congregate in the middle areas, and you'd run into your fraternity brothers or your friends from whatever small town, and y'all chat it up before you had to scoot over to, your classes and study groups, really that time, doing group projects and study groups for tests, with people in your class that you kind of ended up sitting by and gravitating to, whether they were in another fraternity or some of the sorority girls or just other small town kids. You always have these ways of connecting with people. The sports, is, everyone's here to get a degree and then eventually get a job. But, being a supporter of the athletics program is a big part of the college experience, in my opinion. It's where you get to engage in this us versus them mentality. And, there was a couple basketball games that I slept in a sleeping bag outside or in a car just so I could be one of the ones that got to get in for the game. And, I was at the football game when we ripped up the bleachers and started passing them around. And I'm definitely not saying the college kids should do that again because that was wild and crazy. But, I was here during the Bob Knight era in basketball, and I was here for the Mike Leach era in football. And, man, it was just really fun to be a Red Raider, and I think it still is. We've had our ups and downs, every program does, but I look at what we're doing now and it just feels super contagious, energetic. There's something really positive in the air about where we're headed. I think Kirby's done a wonderful job with athletics.
Absolutely. Certainly no less pride. I mean, the pride just continues to build on itself.
No doubt. Pride's at an all-time high, and let's keep it getting higher.
Grad school, you're starting to entertain, you're finding yourself writing music. This is it's probably an outlet for you. Blue light. How do you start getting involved in the blue light culture and all of that?
Yeah, it's an opportunity. And when you're a young songwriter and you're playing music, that's what you want the most. You just want an opportunity, and you'll do it anywhere. And so blue light has been the best in the state, in my opinion. And we're talking about a state with a lot of rich history in cultivating music. I think blue light is second to no one when it comes to cultivating artists. Because there's been an emphasis since the very beginning on originals. And that's the difference. If you show up, they don't want to hear your version of a popular song. They want to hear your song. That's how you make it. And I think that pressure really forces the best to shine and the ones that can't make it not to make it. And if you're somewhere in between, then it's just really motivating because you're like, well, how do I write better songs? How do I belong here better? How do I shine here in a room full of talented people? And that was kind of it. So I remember I still have pictures of my first debut at Blue Light when I showed up and played 2 or 3 songs acoustic. My banjo player, he was my fraternity brother, Austin. He's been in the band ever since then. Even now, he's not in our band full time, but on a part-time basis, he'll still play shows with us. And so, but at that, I still have pictures of that night. I wore a yellow polo shirt and I had a sport coat on, and no hat because I had hair back then, and no beard because I didn't have hair there.
Right.
And played a couple originals, and a bunch of my friends from Phi Delta and some of the sororities and people that I was friends with all came out and watched me, and I just still have those pictures, and they mean the world to me now. And I'm still friends with those girls. They're in Houston and various parts of Texas now, but anytime I tour in their cities, they still come out and hang with me and watch, and it's really cool. But and then once we did that, the Blue Light approached us and said, "Hey, would you like to play here full band?" And I said, "Yeah." I didn't even have a band. I was like, "Yep, I do." And so they said, "Well, here, we'll give you a date and y'all can play a few songs. Let's see how you do." And so I called a couple of my fraternity brothers that played bass and drums, and I said, "Hey, y'all want to get together and be a band, play Blue Light?" Yeah, sure. So we played a 7-song set list. 5 of them were originals. 2 of them were covers. And we packed the place. Why? It's not because we were that good. I sure wasn't. It's just because we were well connected.
Yeah.
Our bass player in the band, specifically, shout out Neil Huey, was really popular. And so, everybody came to watch us and support us because it was cool to them that their fraternity brothers and friends and roommates and whoever were going to be there. And it just led to this domino effect. And so we packed the place out. So I think the Blue Light was like, "Holy crap, do you think you can do this all the time?" And I was like, "Well, we can try." So they were like, "The gig's yours." And now I look back and I'm like, did they book me because they liked my songs or because we had good bar sales that night? But regardless, that's how that happened. And we started playing every Tuesday night at the Blue Light. And
so it's a big part of your DNA. No doubt.
Huge part. And then when I finally left, and our band really started taking off in like 2010, and I moved and had to, it's time for me to get out. I wasn't obviously in school anymore. I was just still living here and based here, but it was time for me to move. I moved to Austin to be more centrally located in Texas. And I passed the Blue Light Tuesday night show down to William Clark Green. And he eventually, I believe, passed that Blue Light torch down to a young guy named Cleto Cordero with the Flatland Cavalry. And all 3 of us now are in this band called the Panhandlers, which is why I'm here today. So just this really cool full circle moment of brotherhood.
So that's interesting. That's what I was about to ask. And of course, that's how, I got connected with you through my nephew Trent in No Dry County. Yeah. And that's part of the Blue Light.
They're part of the
It
Blue
seems
Light
like there's a
there.
lot of camaraderie among everybody that entertains there. And you are kind of a tight group, it seems like.
It's hard to be friends with everyone, and it's hard to be super close to everyone. Trent and I are great examples. We know each other. There's familiarity, but, we've never really written a song together or hung out. But if he ever needed something, I would help him out. And I think that's part of the Blue Light, in the Lubbock songwriter kind of camaraderie. It's almost a fraternity of its own. Where
kind of that lifestyle of just,
everyone
performing.
Wants to support each other. You would think it'd be competitive, but I don't see it as competitive because if another guy writes a better song than me, then they're just really good. And now I need to step my stuff up. It's, you can't really see it as a competition as much as it is a friendship. And so the being a songwriter, I don't think that I would be doing what I'm doing right now if I had gone to another college.
Really?
I don't. I mean, maybe if I'd gone to Texas State and I'd gotten in the Cheatham Street Warehouse circle, which is where Randy Rogers and some of those guys got going, I could maybe see where that might have happened. But I really believe that if I'd gone to some other schools, it wouldn't have happened for me because the Blue Light songwriter night and just all of that really made me who I am, I think.
So you guys, you're going to be on stage at Buddy Holly Hall tonight.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a neat come full circle moment in its own right, just in the history of songwriting out of Lubbock.
Yeah.
But
and one of the most beautiful venues in the country.
Oh gosh, isn't it amazing?
I hope people in this town don't take it for granted because I tour the country and I've played in venues across the world, and It's second to not really none. I mean, it's literally one of the nicest venues in the entire world.
Right.
And it's right here in Lubbock. And I hope everyone just soaks that in.
We were taking a tour one time, and somebody talked to him and said it's European quality. So you're not going to find anything any better.
It's truly incredible, aesthetically pleasing and sonically.
But tonight, it's the Panhandlers on stage, and that's kind of cool.
Panhandlers.
You all have your own kind of history, your own lineage, your own DNA, and it's come together. How did the Panhandler motif start?
Sure.
How did y'all get together?
You know, hopefully, I don't know if you're going to cut this into segments, so I'll try to get it as quick as I can, but we were all playing at the 2019 Music Fest in Steamboat, which occurs in the first week of January every year. And at the end, I was talking to John Dixon, who is the guy who runs that festival, and we chat every year, kind of how was it? What'd you think? What shows did you like? Do you have any ideas for shows next year? Because he likes to do cool, different shows every year. And I said, well, that little tribute you had to the Dixie Chicks was pretty cool with the 3 or 4 various female singers. Why don't you let me put something together like that, and we'll honor West Texas music, and we'll play Flatlanders and Waylon Jennings and Buddy Holly and Terry Allen and Guy Clark, and the list goes on and on and on. And he was like, dude, that's a great idea. He goes, who would you do for that? And I'm like, well, man, I'm literally making this up as I go. I'm spitballing, but William Clark Green is my best friend, and he's from, he's a West Texas guy. I got to include him. And I was like, this young guy, Cleto Cordero. I didn't know him super well at the time. We were friends, but we weren't like best buds. But I was like, man, he really emanates, hopefully that's the right word to use in the Alumni Center. He exudes that spirit of songwriting that I think the Flatlanders were about, and went to Tech. And then I was like, last but not least, to be a guy that didn't go to Tech, but he, of all the people, evokes that Flatlanders spirit when he writes songs, and that's John Bauman. And he goes, cool, man, that sounds awesome. Put it together, and we'll book that next year. So I called those guys up like a couple months later, introduced the idea to them, and they were all like, dude, that sounds fun. Let's do that. That'll be really cool. And we decided, hey, well, if we're going to do this show, let's go in the studio and record 5 songs, cover songs, and put them on a vinyl, and we'll sell X amount of vinyls at that show only. And it'll just be this cool one-time only collector's edition. If you got it, you got it. Well, then we were like, well, if we're going to have a vinyl for all these songs, we need a band name. So we started tossing around some band names, and Cleto geniusly coined Panhandlers. I think he stole that a little bit from Terry Allen's song, Amarillo Highway. But regardless, we were like, dude, yes. And that's why in this band, mostly we write songs about Panhandle and West Texas, but every now and then we'll write songs about homelessness and people who, roam city to city, literally panhandling and begging for money. That's a big part of our song, The Panhandler, as well as another song I wrote. But anyway, so then from there, it was like, well, but if we're going to go in the studio and record and we're all songwriters, should we write some of our own songs? So then it became, okay, let's write a few songs and have some originals. Well, then we had so much fun writing the originals, we wrote the whole record. We didn't even record one of the covers that we were going to originally cover. So we put that first album out. We launched it for March of 2020. We were fired up. We had a whole tour, a lot of big press dates. We were going to go to radio, do the whole thing. And obviously the world shut down. We don't have to get into that. It canceled everything, and it really killed the momentum of that album. It didn't allow us to get out there and play it for people and share it. And we got a second life to it about a year later when Yellowstone put it on an episode, and it did really well. And so then we went and recorded a second album and just recorded a lot of great songs. And between the 2 albums, we just had 20-something songs that were really cool and unique. And then we decided to start touring. So we started touring, playing some shows here and there. We did a tour last year, and now this is our second full tour. And we do it for 2 weeks because that's all we can do it. We all have our own individual careers, Flatland Cavalry now, when we started this project in 2019, Flatland Cavalry was the young up-and-coming band from Lubbock. Now they're one of the biggest bands in red dirt and Americana, Texas country, whatever you want to define it as, alt country. They're one of the biggest bands in America now. I mean, they're blowing up, and myself and William Clark Green and John, we've all had these really cool careers. And so getting us all together is really difficult. schedule-wise. And so we try to block off 2 weeks a year to tour together, and this happens to be it. So that's the really long-winded but short version, I promise, of how this whole thing snowballed. It wasn't this grand. A lot of times they give me credit and they go, Josh is the reason we're here, and and I'm like, man, I just had the idea to get with you guys and sing some songs. I didn't know that it was going to be this, and I'm really grateful it turned out that way.
But you're together doing what you love, and I think that's the authenticity of it. That's probably what really exudes to your word.
Our goal as the Panhandlers is to write songs that tell the stories and the perspectives of the people that live between Amarillo and Big Bend and Marfa. And that's what we want to do. And we want to, whether it's songs about hardship and drought, loneliness, the weather, the ups and the downs, the highs of the oil and gas industry, the lows. We have a song called The Chilton about, that's a Lubbock pastime. We've now written songs since that we're going to be going into the studio with for the next record. One of them's called Tortilla Moon. Because if you look at the moon, it looks like a tortilla.
Oh, there you go.
And I don't even remember which one of us came up with that idea. I think it was Will or Cleto or John. It wasn't me, but I'm lucky enough to be a writer on the song. And we have that coming out down the road. So, yeah, it's just been a super fun project. And we hope that, that Texas Tech, specifically getting back to, the context of this interview, is Red Raiders are proud of us because it's a cool piece. I mean, how many bands are there out there that exist with 4 different lead singers, and they went to college at the same university and overlapped each other and knew each other when they were young, and then they all had individual successful careers, and then they came back to form this group that would tell stories about where they're from. It might be the only one in America, and I think that's cool.
Well, and it's representative of the pride and alma mater, and every Red Raider has a story, and here at the Alumni Association, we love celebrating people's stories, and yours is on stage and very, very talented. And you mentioned several of your songs. Obviously, Victory Bells is one that tugs at the heart of the tribe. And speak to how the words of that came about, and
Sure.
Hopefully you can play it for us here today.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll grab my guitar in just a second. I wanted to write a song about Texas Tech, and I wanted it to be a song that really held weight and wasn't, what's the word I want to look for, cheesy or hokey. I didn't want to just write some like, Texas Tech Red Raiders, we're coming at you. I don't know. I don't know. Did I just borrow words from another song? I hope I sure
familiar.
didn't.
Sounded familiar. It was in its time.
What am I thinking of?
Red Raider coming at you.
Oh, I love that
Red
song.
Stiegel.
Red
That
Stiegel. Song's amazing.
Yeah.
To me, that's the greatest
And
Texas
when I was
Tech
young,
song
that was
ever.
what was playing in the stadium.
So I didn't mean to choose those words specifically as more the melody of like, dun, dun, dun. I didn't want to do that. And it was important to me to write something that felt like it wouldn't be time-stamped, but it was something that people 30 years ago or 30 years from now could listen to, and the lyrics would transcend. Not a lot of reference to like technology or specific names, right? It would have been easy to mention Crabtree or Leach or someone like that, but I didn't want to do that. And so I wanted to write this song with Wade Bowen, Texas Tech alumni, and William Clark Green, but we couldn't get our schedules. And I really, for some reason, was just like, man, I just want to write this song. And then one night, lying in my bunk on the road, going down the road, the idea for how to shape the song just started hitting me. And I got out of my bunk and I went to the back lounge and I wrote the song that one night just by myself. Just how do I want to tell the story? I want it to be chronological. I want it to be, here's when I arrived to college, and then here's the process of going through college and then, or university if you really want to be technical. And then here's here's what happens when you have to say goodbye. Mm-hmm. And,
the crossing of the stage.
Yeah. And then that's why I thought that was a perfect way to end it and not do the chorus to end the song like a normal song would do, because I thought when you walk across that stage, it's time to say goodbye. You always have the memories, but it's time to move on to the next chapter. And so I didn't want to sing the chorus again. The song goes out to all my classmates and friends from my Texas Tech days. And Dr. Langford. in comm studies. I love you. And how about the GOAT himself? I'm going to dedicate this to Dr. Dean.
There you go.
And there's a spirit in the air, a sense of hope through every door, and new routines pave the way, roads to be explored, and the victory bells ring out. Fight, Raiders, fight for the school we love so dearly, through the days and the nights, until our time is done here. We are the scarlet and the black. Step forward, never back. So fight, Raiders, fight. Well, seasons come and go, thank God. Slowly pages start to turn, and the memories and grades, they aren't given, only earned. Amen. And the victory bells ring out. Fight, Raiders, fight for the school we love so dearly, through the days and the nights, until our time is done here. We are the scarlet and the black. Step forward, never back. So fight, Raiders, fight. As we walk across the stage, strive for honor evermore. We bow to our friends. Long live the Matador.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you for having me today.
Man, fantastic. Appreciate you coming in
Thanks a
and
lot.
sharing your time with us.
Wreck 'em. Love you, Texas Tech.